Welcome to something new that we're trying for the very first time today. The Stat Review, brought to you in partnership with SofaScore. We're going to be diving through all the best and worst stats in the world of football. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, send in all your stats. Tag me online at Statman Dave. You want all the good stats, the bad stats, and the ugly stats so we can see them and review them. You know, Fabrizio Romano's doing some dodgy stats. We need to know about it because Fabrizio's the GOAT round here of transfer news. You know, this man here is sitting in the stat chair. You know what we're saying, the stat chair. So let's dive into some stats that we are reviewing via the wonderful, wonderful people of Reddit. And we're going to have to give a shout out to the user 11918 that's done a comparison of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's records versus the Big Six, and then added Leicester City in as well, with looking at what they've done over the years, post-Ferguson, you know, Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think one of the big things that sticks out for me straight away is how consistent Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been against the traditional top six. And I think that kind of, you know, looking at what he's done in these games, there has been some, you know, defensive games in recent years. There has been some counter-attacking performances in recent years, but also there's been some top quality going forward. And I think that's one of the big things with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's setup. It is a counter-attacking approach. It's a counter-attacking side of things. And we are looking at Manchester United to play on the break in these games. It's not for everyone. It's not the approach of Liverpool. It's not the approach of Man City. But it's an effective approach, as we can see. You know, looking at the other stats in there, you know, other useful stats in terms of games won, draws, goals conceded, big chances created. Big chance created, obviously, peaking with last season's Manchester United in the last 8 years. So an interesting one. Obviously a little skewed by certain performances, you know, against the likes of Southampton and so forth. I'll give it a 9. In terms of how fun they are, not so fun at the moment. Going to give it a 6. Guys, do get your stat scores involved. So now let's take a look at Newcastle United in the Premier League since Steve Bruce was appointed. Steve Bruce is walking that tightrope. And if we have a look at the stats, Newcastle United are 18th in the Premier League since Bruce was appointed in terms of points per game. 16th for home wins, you know, something that the Geordies want. 15th for goals per game. 20th for expected goals. Those underlying numbers not looking too good. And I think one of the surprise ones, the net spend for Steve Bruce. 93.3 million, ranking him in 8th, which is more than what we think about there. Obviously, some big moves coming to Newcastle, the likes of Joelinton, Alan Saint-Maximin, and so forth. But the defensive problems for Newcastle this season are absolutely horrendous. They're ranked 20th for expected goals against, goals conceded, clean sheets, and of course 18th for shots faced and 19th for shots on target faced. It's probably time for Steve Bruce to get the boot. So let's jump on to the pressing numbers from Manchester United and forwards within the Premier League. So I think first and foremost, one of the things that jumps out for me here, it's not the Ronaldo thing at 2.7. It's the fact that Wilfried Zaha leads the list. Wilfried Zaha is a player that we don't expect that does good defensive work, but has been making 20 pressures per 90, which is the joint most with Neal Maupay. Maupay understand because he plays for Brighton and Graham Potter loves his sides to press. But fair play to Wilfried Zaha, showing that he can do those hard yards. Love to see that, and there's some obviously names that we do come to understand in the Premier League. The likes of Danny Ings is always going to be up there. Diogo Jota is also going to be up there in that type of list. But let's move to United. The two kind of forwards playing for Man United, Mason Greenwood and Cristiano Ronaldo, that's ranked bottom of this list at just 2.7 pressures per 90. One of Man United's big problems at the moment is finding a system that will fit Cristiano Ronaldo in, that will allow United to press. That is the biggest decision point right now that needs to be solved. And maybe moving to a 4-5-1 pressing shape, or maybe moving to a diamond pressing shape, could help Manchester United higher at the pitch. Being adaptable, pressing in a diamond, maybe dropping back to that 4-4-2 shape, but changing things up because it's not working quite now in the 4-4-2. I'd like to see United focus their pressing inside, forcing it through the middle and making those high turnovers. Nice stats. Accuracy with StatsBomb, you've got to give those guys a 10. The stats I like, how fun they are. I think they're quite fun. I'm going to give this a solid 8 as well. 10 on the accuracy, 8 on how fun they are. This party is getting started. Right, let's move forward to some more stats that we've seen in the last week, and that is Memphis Depay's record in World Cup qualifying. Memphis Depay has taken 48 shots and created 45 chances during the 2022 World Cup qualifying, accounting to a total of 93 shots. 43 more than Europe's next best player, averaging a shot every 8 minutes. These numbers are absolutely incredible from Memphis Depay. And I tell you what, Memphis Depay at the World Cup, I reckon he'll be one of the top stars there. And these numbers are crazy. 43 more than the next best player in the Europe. This is a 10. This is a 10. It's got the banter. It's got the quality. I'm scoring this as a perfect 10. Great stats via Opta Joe. Pedri has signed a new deal until 2026 with €1 billion release clause. And the reports are that Ansu Fati is going to get a similar $1 billion release clause. That is a lot of money. You could basically change a complete city with that type of money. But Pedri, obviously a top-class footballer. And I understand why Barcelona are moving like this. Obviously, you need to have a release clause in Spain. That's one of the rules, one of the kind of laws of the game, that every player has to have a release clause. And I think we understand why Pedri's release clause is that good and is so high. Pedri has been simply phenomenal for Barcelona, but also for Spain at such a young age of 20 years old. At the European Championships was absolutely phenomenal. In the Euros, played 629 minutes for an 18-year-old is very, very impressive. Completed 92% of his 476 passes, had 66 progressive carries, 54 passes into the final third, 27 shot creating actions, 5 goal creating actions, and 4 through balls. Pedri, £1 billion release clause. I think that's fine. I think that's good. We're going to review the stat. Accuracy, decent. Fabrizio Romano, he knows it. We're going to give him an 8. In terms of funness, we're going to give it a 6. Not so fun. Right, let's fly through to the last few stats that we've got. Now let's actually go to a Statman Dave stat. We do include these stats because it was an absolute banger of a stat. We've got Marcus Rashford's goal versus Leicester City. It was his 17th in the Premier League since the start of the 2020 season. In this time period, he's played 3,874 minutes, scoring 17 goals and assisting a further 12 on average. He's been directly involved in a goal every 134 minutes. Marcus Rashford is the future of Man United. He has to be the main part of everything United are doing going forward. Tactically, off the pitch, on the pitch, Marcus Rashford is doing phenomenal things. He should be the poster boy of Manchester United, and that is what he should be. Stats, incredible. Good stats. Not going to score it because it's our own stats, but you love to see the Marcus Rashford stats. You really, really do. And finally, our final stat from Football Twitter. And one of the things we like to do, if people are posting their trolling stats, we like to get involved. Give you my opinion on the stats. So LFC Max on Twitter is talking about how he apparently has cyberbullied Jordan Henderson into stop crossing and stop playing long balls. I think it's more focused on the long balls in the game. This is a screenshot at halftime in the game against Watford where Jordan Henderson has yet to play a long ball. Sometimes we've got to undress these stats and drop the bit of the stat hammer involved. When we do look at these things, it's a little bit cheeky to post stats halfway through the game. And that's what the data says. We're going to obviously have a look at that. So on SofaScore, when we take a look at Jordan Henderson's numbers from the game. So at halftime, it was 0 long balls. But at the end of the game, as we kind of see with the stats, Henderson completed 5 out of 7 long balls in the game. And I think one of the big things for Liverpool is they do play long passes. They play long passes into the channel. They play switches of play to the likes of Mane. And that's why this stat kind of rolls forward and why you should be playing these long balls, these long passes to move your opponent around. It's a good thing for Liverpool to do this. They want to get Salah in those areas, in behind the opposition's defence. They're very direct side. They'll either win that second ball or Mohamed Salah will have a chance to score. Henderson playing long balls for me is absolutely fine. And I think the interesting side, obviously, Henderson's one of the targets for Liverpool fans at the moment with this statistic. But if actually we have a look at the numbers, four Liverpool players have attempted more long balls than Jordan Henderson in the Premier League this season. But also in terms of the completion rate of those players, Van Dijk's had the most long balls with 69 Liverpool. His completion rate is 52%. Alisson's next up with 64 long balls, 53% completion rate. Then Trent with 63 long balls, 54% completion rate. Finally, Joel Matip with 40 long balls and 53% completion. And then Henderson, 34 long balls completed with a 70% completion rate. His stats are better than what you think. So unfortunately, for Max, I'm going to give him a bad score this week for Max. Needs to use data a little bit better. We're going to give him a 0 for accuracy. We're going to give him a 0 for banter. And that's the stat review, guys. Thanks for joining in on the very first stat review. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And of course, check out SofaScore, the best football app on the planet. And lastly, tag me online at Statman Dave whenever you see a stat that's good, that's bad, or that's ugly.